It is Baltune and Crackedy versus Artie and CoRe. We're going into Dry Arabia in cold colors. We will have Baltune and Crackedy with the English and French. And to the north, it is Artie and CoRe in pink and red.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll see what the players decide to do. I would assume the strategy is just bully Abbasid in general. But one thing to note, so the way that the system works is you play potentially up to 5 games, and you have to play every civ, so you cannot repeat civs. Which also means that picking French and English together, while it's very good, you're also playing two very, very strong civs together. So that's something to think about, because pairing Rus with, potentially one of the worst civs for team games, in the long run is a lot better strategy, right? Whereas if you're picking like strongest civs combined every single series, you might run out of the good civs to play with.
Is it a bit of an all-in-ish approach that you just take your big, powerful civilizations at the beginning, saying that, okay, we would prefer to just win 3-0 instead of taking this into 5 games, or is there something else behind this?
I mean, it depends what they practice, right? It's very possible that they're like trying to end it quickly, or let's just use the best civs and best maps and kind of go with that. And it can obviously work, but I would say if Artie and CoRe lose here, it's not that big of a deal. But if Baltune and Crackedy lose, then you lost two very, very strong civs. So, that's something to always consider, like going into the next series. And if Baltune and Crackedy in the next game pick like, third, fourth, fifth, best civs combined once again, then they're going to struggle in the longer series if it comes to that.
Yeah, now their maps are quite unconventional. They have mountain clearing and cauldron. So the idea here, at least in my mind, could be that they just want to take the neutral map and then they have 2 maps that they're very confident on and they might be happy with some slightly weaker civilizations there.
Yeah, I mean, another thing is English is, funnily enough, good on both of the maps they have picked, right? Cauldron and Mountain Clearing, English is very good. So to pick it on game 1 basically means that you are limiting yourself in a way, right? So your opponents, if they play against your Mountain Clearing, they won't be like, are they going to pick English or HRE or China? English is already out of the game. So that's another thing that in these longer series, like I said, you have to kind of keep track of and maybe think about so you can pre-plan accordingly.
Feudal Age in there. We do have the Kremlin coming from CoRe, and given that in the previous series we have seen multiple Golden Gates, I guess this is my time to ask your brain about this. How do you feel about players actually doing some Golden Gate stuff in 2v2s?
I don't really see the point, to be honest. So Golden Gate is usually pretty good if you're going second TC or rushing castle, which in my opinion is bad meta for Rus anyway in 2v2. So I feel that Kremlin is just so strong. Like, even if you don't use any militia, it will still defend your gold and wood line. So I think it's still, Kremlin is stronger, but I don't know. I just don't see a lot of value in Golden Gate compared to it.
Yeah, it's interesting because Wham said the same thing, yet in the previous set we did see quite a lot of Golden Gates. It's actually a very low bounty, by the way. Let's talk about that. Hold on. 110 bounty at the 4-minute mark on the way to Feudal Age in a 2v2 setup.
Yeah, he almost pulled a Marine Lord there, so that's pretty bad, but not quite like. Okay, he's gonna push a little bit more. But yeah, that is pretty bad, especially for a team game. Doing it in 1-on-1 is bad, but in a team game where you have like twice as many deer and the map is a lot bigger, is, I guess, pretty unfortunate. I'm not sure if he just completely missed out on the deer, what happened there, but yeah, that is not even 2 full deer packs, guys. So
well, he only has 2
really,
scouts,
really
so there is that,
yeah.
But still, 135 bounty is, as you said, close to a Marine Lord.
Yeah, not quite. I mean, it is two scouts, right? Marine Lord went 3 scouts, so I guess he got 7 or almost 70 bounty per scout, which again, not great, but it is what it is, I guess. Pretty unfortunate start. And we do see Abbasid seems to be slowly going into 2TC, and CoRe kind of has that Kremlin in between the two players, and I think he's just going to move into, classic Knight spam.
Yeah, we do have some longbows moving up from Crackedy. Now, he is doing a decent job with the harassment over here. Villagers will be pushed away from the wood line. There's a knight as well to accompany this. Only one spearman for Donardi to defend.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem, right? French cannot defend you, Rus cannot defend you on his own with the knights because they're spearmen as well. And this is what I mentioned earlier. This is the weakness of Abbasid. You take a little bit to kind of build up, but now these longbows are going to harass the wood line. The knights will soon, from the French, join. And even if you do get enough resources for second TC, you are not putting it out on the map, right? At the best, you're going to have to put it next to your main TC or something, which kind of just goes worse and worse, and there we see villagers slowly but surely going down.
Knights now charging against each other. A lot of harassment here on Donardi's base, and right now they are outnumbered 2-1. At least on the army department. First spearman arrives as well from Crackedy. Oh, nice little move in with the knights though. A couple of casualties on both sides. At the end of the day though, this is slowing down the Abbasid player quite a bit.
Yeah, he's slowly taking damage, and French and English, they're not on any kind of timer. They're not like, oh, if you don't stop this, we're insta losing the game or anything like that. Actually, the English, the more unit they have, they're building the longbow count. They will have a tower as well across the map. So even if the game turns into some kind of stalemate where they're defending, they're not taking damage, you will see that the blue team will basically have like 80% of the map for themselves. So eventually the resources will just overwhelm them.
Yeah, and of course French Knights being slightly stronger than a Rus one also helps here. Once again, Donardi does have to relocate with his villas. He's yet to drop that second TC, and it's getting dicey. This is so much idle time. Now, relocating all those villagers to stone. It's just a handful of knights and longbows, but they're causing so much damage.
And we do see Rus Knights slowly arriving, slowly trickling in. And, okay, he will attempt to build a second TC. Is that going to be on the berries? Or maybe he's just gathering there? I'm not sure. But yeah, Rus Knights are arriving, but like I said, the longbows can always kite, and it's, the moment the spearmen are down, then the knights will engage once again, and it's, for now they're trading, but like I said, in the long run, this is going to get worse and worse for Donardi and CoRe.
CoRe does pick the villager that was building the towers, so the network of castles won't be extended all the way out here. Spearmen mostly have been focused down by the archers, but the longbows, they do pick off most of the spears, they push back the archers, and as you have a couple of spears moving up here from Crackedy, it makes it a lot more difficult for CoRe to engage. And you see, there's a bit of a sharing of wood lines over here at this point, the only place where Donardi can really chop trees.
Yeah, we see Baltune already moving out on the deer. There's no real threat. They do have to keep pushing, though, because if they stop pushing, maybe CoRe says, okay, there's nothing happening, so I'm going to go do some raids as well. So you kind of have to keep attacking, otherwise you're opening yourself up for a counterattack, and then things can kind of go south. But for now, Donardi and CoRe are holding. Not a lot of food options for them, so we see that the second TC's in that new berry patch, and they do have one safe deer and one safe berries in the back. After that, the question is, where are they going to go for the food, or if they're going to manage to get out of their base.
That's a great point, actually. In fact, it's not just the food, also the wood. Donardi already has to chop a forest that belongs to CoRe. If they cannot gain some more ground, that's just going to get even more alarming. Looks like CoRe will move out for the boar, though. And he's going to have a tower protecting this, so he probably won't get raided early on over there. But there is going to be a tower completed here from Crackedy. Makes me wonder if they think more about a ram push at this point, because that feels like the next step for Crackedy.
I think that they have not seen the second TC, because when the second TC was going up, they weren't even like attempting to harass it or prevent it. So they might be thinking like, oh, we're denying the wood line, quite well. With sometimes you don't like realize, oh, he can just go to the faraway wood line at his ally. And now you can see core raiding, which is exactly what I said. If you're not constantly pushing, you are going to get raided because it's like, oh, there's no danger. They're not actually going for it, so I might as well do some counter damage.
And good value here for CoRe. He did pick a villager, forces a lot of idle time. Might get some more picks. He needs to be careful not to lose the knights, though. Those are expensive units. Still has the scout. Scout is being focused down. That would deprive him of vision. And it looks like this is a beautiful micro here from Baltune, saving most of the villagers. He only lost one will. He's slowly picking off those knights.
Yeah, pretty good micro. Pretty good micro. And he will end up losing, those two knights that are running away eventually. And we see Crackedy kind of preparing. I wonder how far... Yeah, there's the siege engineering coming up. So he is slowly getting ready to ram. Now, the question is, where are they going to go for the ram push? Is that a third TC? That is third TC from Abbasid on Deer. That is very, very optimistic.
Well, Donardi had a lot of idle time, but I have to agree with you. I think it's optimistic, especially given how much pressure they're under. They already have a villager lead of 7. So their eco is going to escalate fast. Issue is that it's not like CoRe has a mass... Actually, never mind. Donardi did build a couple of spears and he's got some horsemen. So the army numbers aren't looking that bad for a player who's playing 3 TCs.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. I mean, if they hold, obviously it's going to be great, right? But like you said, they already have the villager lead, and they should know that because they are on 2 TCs or 3 TCs total. So, in my opinion, there's no reason to kind of extend that lead further. What you should just try and do is hold the lead and kind of not suffer any villager losses. And now we'll see the Rams slowly starting to move up, and the 2 production buildings will most likely go down. That's going to be a pretty rough one to defend.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt, right? You lose the production buildings, and then you will probably be forced to take a fight, because the next 2 buildings that come up are actually your starting TC and the House of Wisdom. So there's a bit of a timer coming up here for Donardi and CoRe.
Yeah, for sure. I actually wonder if they're gonna try to like sneak in. I mean, CoRe we saw was making more production, so I'm assuming he's just going to commit. It would be crazy if Donardi tried to reach castle, but it's also, I feel, a bit crazy to go for a 3rd TC. So we'll see what happens with that. If CoRe manages to keep this boar on the side and kind of defend it and keep getting resources there, that's going to be pretty good for him. But we do see a little blue dot over there. Yeah, so they know about that boar as well. And once that runs out, again, I beg the question, where is CoRe going to go? Because Abbasid can potentially go for super early farms and kind of extend his food generation that way. But CoRe, I think, will suffer in a little bit.
Yeah, those knights are starting to probe these outlying resources, the hunt, the gold mines. They didn't manage to get a lot of villager picks, but you see, there are 2 battering rams already. They will start focusing the House of Wisdom to get rid of the... it's the fire-resistant bonus. And also, a bit of a side note, with the villagers spawning here at this starting TC, they do get picked off instantly by the longbows. So in reality, it's more like a 2 TC play right now for Donardi. He just keeps losing all those villagers that he's making here.
Yeah, we do see those berries at the 2nd TC are gone. I'm assuming the deer pack is in the back is gone, or did get the the berry patch in the back, and we do see a big engagement coming for the Rams, and the Rams are not getting moved. They're not getting microed at all, so those will be going down.
Yeah, good pickups here for the cavalry, but the knight numbers look very healthy. We got 25 knights, French knights those are, on the field. Tower is being built as well here to extend the network of castles or for the longbows. But as you said, Rams are gone, and this buys a little time for Donardi and CoRe. 20 spears available for Donardi, a lot of archers as well on the side of CoRe, but 26 knights feels very deadly here. Which of these 2 armies do you prefer?
Yeah, guys, that's not the math you wanna hope for in a game. 23 spears versus 27 knights. I mean, that's a pretty rough one, and let's not forget CoRe has only 6 knights, right? So if these longbows do like 2 volleys on the spears, basically Baltune's knights will be able to kill everything else that they have. So I feel like the army from Baltune and Crackedy is just way too strong for them to deal with right now. And as long as they can force some kind of objectives and goals, such as food or wood lines, and force the enemies to fight, I think Donardi and CoRe are going to have a pretty bad time.
Yeah, they definitely can force things over here. There are two landmarks right next to each other that they can target. And CoRe and Donardi get ready for the fight. A couple of trenches were also built here by Crackedy, just getting some shielding up against the possible cavalry charge. They do see the horsemen coming out from Donardi. This time, they will pull back a ram though. Network of castles working wonders though, and that's a lot of knights to deal with. Longbow's getting some good picks on the spears. You really feel like this is a battle that's massively favoring Baltune and Crackedy.
Yeah, we do see spears on the completely wrong side. They were attacking the longbows, and the horsemen were attacking the knights. So that is definitely how you want this fight to go. And I mean, you can see that the French knight count, I don't think has moved at all. I don't know if he's lost a single one. Maybe he's lost one, but he's still on 32 knights. And yeah, that is just too big of an army. And like I mentioned earlier, this is why Abbasid is so rough into these two civs specifically. Because you never have free time to do anything. You're on pressure from the get-go.
Yeah, militias have been popped now, but they just come in a little too late. Nothing to defend these archers with. In fact, they try to make a run to a choke point, just run into the knights. It's a cleanup, and likely a game for Baltune and Crackedy, because it feels impossible for CoRe and Donardi to keep themselves alive against all these knights now.
Yeah, and they're diving under Kremlin and TC, but like I said, it honestly doesn't matter. He has lost 5 or 6 knights, you know, maybe a bit more, but let's call it even 10, right, in that fight, and he's got 27 more. So the wood lines are also a problem because they have chopped this first one completely, and we do see surrenders coming out.
Yeah, you mentioned this. A powerful combo of civs, French and English. This was a must-win for Baltune and Crackedy. Abbasid's being the weak link, and it was something that was punished by Crackedy and Baltune here. Right from the get-go, they slowed down the second TC from Donardi. Donardi opted to go for a third one, but it was punished with some aggressive gameplay here from Baltune and Crackedy.
Yeah, and game number 1 goes to them. So I guess the strategy thing we talked about earlier, we'll see it in a second, depending if Crackedy and Baltune decide to go for another like super strong combo. CoRe and Donardi obviously losing Rus is painful because Rus, like I said, is very strong. But losing Abbasid is honestly not the biggest deal.
That army graph was just sad to watch if you're CoRe and Donardi. In a blink of an eye, you went from 100 army to nothing, and as you said, basically no knights were killed.
Yeah, we do see matchups for the second game, which will be on Lipany. So we do see CoRe and Donardi going with Delhi and Chinese, which, I mean, Delhi on Lipany, you know, it's obviously a very nice civ. And then we have Chinese with the potential to go maybe 2 TC or just stay in 1 TC, depending how they want to play it. And on the other side, Baltune and Crackedy going with Mongols and Abbasid. That is a very interesting comp, I would say. I haven't seen those two civs together in quite a while, but maybe the idea is Mongol does like a tower rush while Abbasid booms behind, which is kind of how you want to play with Abbasid. You want to play something that can put pressure on the opponent so you can do whatever you want back at home.
That could be an option. We have seen how Lipany is a lot more defendable with the current generations, so you can play into that idea of being aggressive with the Mongols, probably wanting to slow down the Chinese player first and foremost. You don't want them to boom away, and then just have your Abbasid player play a very eco-focused approach. Now, we have seen a Mongol plus Abbasid combo on jousting fields today. That was for trade. Could you see trade being a thing here?
Honestly, against China and Delhi, yeah, because China is probably one of the worst civs playing against trade because it takes so long for China to like get going because you have to build 2 landmarks. Then even if you want to attack, you can't really just go like horsemen with China. You usually have to go Zuginu and spearmen, which are infantry. And Mongol and Abbasid are both great trade civs, so I feel like it could be a thing for sure. And then on the other side, you have Delhi that is very aggressive and is very strong and feudal, but it also doesn't start up immediately. Like, English or French, it kind of takes a little bit for them to start making units. So I think trade would be a pretty good option.
Well, we have 2 minutes left to go. Let's take a look at the rest of the schedule, though, while we're waiting for game number 2. We have one more set after this that's going to feature Marine Lord and Eliona versus Bee and Cat. And tomorrow, we have a lot of Canadians making an appearance. We will have the team of Wham, the team of Magic. Maito is going to make an appearance as well. How do you feel about these matchups? Which one of those 4 is your favorite?
I mean, for tomorrow, I'm looking forward to my match the most because I'm excited to play. But I think, except mine and my bias, right? I think Sword of State versus Magic and Mito is going to be a pretty good match. It's a bit of a question mark, right? How Mito will do. Obviously, he's an AoE4 developer. He's playing with Magic. How well practiced they are. Sword of State are both obviously very good players. But I think every series is going to be pretty good and unique in their own way. Third series is going to be like very aggressive, I would imagine. Then you have second series with also very, very strong players. So I think overall it's just going to be a good day of games.
Well, that's what we're always hoping for, of course. Good day of games. Speaking of games, it looks like we're jumping into the game. Nope, we're just being debated. We still have 30 seconds to go.
I didn't hear no sheep.
I never hear the sheep, by the way. Fun
They
fact.
don't speak to you?
I don't think I have cast a game with audio for the last 2 years.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, I always cast mute. That's one of the weird things I do, yes.
Okay, that's crazy. That is crazy. Is there any reason for it, or?
I feel like I can focus more on what I say, especially because it gets annoying when I'm trying to think and then there's a wolf crying, or when you're trying to, talk about a fight and there is all this carnage going on. I probably could go on with like a low volume, but I just got used to having
Or
stuff
the
going.
Abbasid villager just screaming.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
The English town center doing the ding ding things like it did in the betas.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Just wanted to ask, I'm not judging, just kind of was curious about what's going on there.
All right, game number 2. It is Lipany. We have Baltune and Crackedy with the Mongols and the Abbasids. Left side is going to be CoRe and Don Artie with the Chinese and the Delhi.
So what is going to is your prediction the one you said with trading? Is that what you're going with?
If I had to make a guess, I would say yes. I feel like, especially because we have seen this once previously today, and because this is one of the slower paced and more wallable maps, I think it has an interesting upside. I'm not 100% certain, but if I had to make a call, I would probably say trade, yes.
So I didn't think about it until you mentioned it, and I think against these two civs, I think trading would definitely be good. But I wonder if they're recognizing that. Because I think if it was against other civs, I would just probably play normal, like with Abbasid Mongol. But because it's against these two civs, I think trade would be really, really nice. And we do see a little tower rush coming. I would imagine there's going to be a Chinese player, but we do see CoRe W. He did not open with mill on the berries. He kind of opened it behind his TC next to his woodline. So I wonder where the tower would even go in this case.
Well, the gold is kind of exposed, is what Kai's highlighting, but there are some back gold mines that can be backups. This is an interesting question, I guess, regarding CoRe's gold mine placement. You said it before, he didn't place his mill on the berries. Are you surprised that he's using that front gold when facing the Mongols?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a weird spawn as well, right? It looks like he has 2 starting golds, doesn't it? Like, both golds are very close to his TC, so I'm not actually sure what happened there. But I think, yeah, just going on berries maybe, and the back gold, and then just barbicaning the berries. I would probably go for something like that, where you kind of protect both resources, because this way you're not protecting either, and you're still open to getting tower rush, right? So I guess it depends a lot on where the tower goes. He might opt to try tower rush the wood line as well, or stone, or gold. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think the spawn is a little deceiving. I think the gold that we see to the back of CoRe's TC actually belongs to Don Artie. And CoRe's got double front golds, and the third one is to the south. So that's probably why we see this little awkwardness.
Oh, yeah. But the funny thing, yeah, I think you're right. But the funny thing is, it is same distance as CoRe's main gold. Like it's not further away at all. So okay, we see a Barbican in a. I mean, that's a good Barbican spot if you can make it. But I am very much questioning this decision right now.
That's an awkward situation to be in. You build those buildings fast, but you don't want spearmen poking you while you do it. And that is only 50% completion so far. Khan is going to join the fun. At the very least, you will lose a lot of HP on these vills.
Yeah, I mean, he should just let the villagers run. Yeah, just pick him off. Just let him run immediately. Don't chase. Just do as much damage as you can. And this Barbican, I guess, will go up in the end. But, yeah, those villagers, like I said, are going to suffer a lot of HP losses. But it is a really good Barbican. So he gets the back gold, he gets the deer, he gets the berries, and he protects his wood line at the same time. So he did lose a villager. He lost some mining time, but he will get kind of his value in Barbican in the long run.
Yeah, military wing is the wing of choice for Crackedy for the time being. Dome of Faith for Artie. And of course, we'll have to wait a little with Baltune. He invested a lot into spears, so he's going to be the last to reach feudal. Now, you do have two archers, two spears. What do you do with them if you're Crackedy? Do you send them to Artie, or do you just double down on CoRe?
I think you just double down, like you just maybe continue tower rushing, like this first tower, okay, he's doing the goals, maybe do a tower between them. I think that would have maybe been a better first tower, because you want to section off the allies, right? You want to do a tower between so they can't help each other. But I would imagine maybe he's going to do a little poke at Artie and then just kind of gather their armies together.
Well, here come the archers. It looks like this mining camp was found, though, and this could be annoying for Artie because he's getting pushed away from the gold. And when you go for that Dome of Faith, you do want to use at least some gold to get those initial couple of scholars out.
Yeah, we do see archers come out, so he will push back, and this is what I meant. If the first tower was here, then the archers cannot follow. And they did tower rush the gold in the front line, but there's two back golds that, you know, the one behind Barbican and the one in between their bases, so not much was actually denied there. I mean, he did kill a villager, but other than that, I don't think this tower will accomplish too much.
Alright, Crackedy is playing into a second DC, but look at what Baltune is up to. He is going for the silver tree, so there will be some sort of trading going on here sooner or later, at least.
Okay, so they're going a little bit of both, I guess. You know, you were half right, I guess. So not a full trade, but a medium trade. And I mean, I don't mind it, right? Maybe Crackedy has not played trade Abbasid Wing too much, right? So maybe he's doing what he's more comfortable with. Maybe he wants the military wing because they plan to fight in feudal, right? That's also a possibility. So we'll see how that goes for them.
Yeah, for the time being, obviously with the damage done to CoRe, Artie also being slowed down a little, and no sacred sites right now for Delhi player. This is a great window to play 2 TCs, to play into the trade. In fact, the silver tree is already relocating to the corner, so we will probably have some early trade going on. Now, I wonder when this gets scouted by CoRe and Artie. In fact, do you think they suspect the trade could be realistic here, or is this something that they will only be thinking about as an option once they see the silver tree?
I think you always suspect it when you play against Mongol. I mean, Deer Stones is not a bad landmark, but I feel trading is just, you get a lot more value with Mongols, and it's not that expensive. It forces your opponent to attack. So it kind of does like a lot of different things, so it's never a bad idea to do it. The question is what their response will be, right? Are they going to attack? Are they just going to take the sacred sites and be like, okay, you can keep trading. We'll just age up and maybe put keeps on the sacred sites? That's kind of something we have yet to see.
Yeah, some more harassment going on the gold. Looks like we'll have a bit of everything here for Artie. He's got a stable, he's got a range, he's got an archer range as well. He's getting some Ghazi Raiders going, some archers as well. Whereas for CoRe, it looks like he's working his way towards the Chukunu, but he's just now starting production.
Yeah, so it seems they're just going to commit both in one TC. I mean, Delhi obviously will be one TC, but the question was if China will go. And it seems like it will just be an all-out push, whether they want to punish, Abbasid, or maybe they're like, oh, they're doing 2TC and trading, so they want to punish that. Or maybe they just want to capture all 3 sacred sites and, like I said, try to hold. We will see, but we already see Keshiks also coming out to contest that. And there's actually no spearman, I just realized.
Yeah, looks like walls will be coming in over here. Keshik's on the move, and this is actually difficult to deal with right now when you don't have a lot of spears. We talked about this with Wham. These guys will gain back the HP, so as long as you do little damage to them, with units like, let's say, archers, it's basically nothing.
Yeah, and you can see them. I mean, he's just not even attempting to fight it. So they're already getting pretty good value. And we do see a couple of spearmen arriving, but there's the charge, and they might have less health, but they still do a lot of damage, so you can't really mess around with them too much.
Yeah, they are heavy units though, so Ghazi Raiders do some bonus damage against them. Trade is going on though, and I wonder, like, you see, you already have 5 traders for Baltune. It's slowly starting to kick in, especially because it's not like he has been committing very heavily to Keshik production.
I mean, it's going to support the production quite well, and we see the tower going down slowly. And I think it's going to depend a lot if both teams are just saying, okay, we're going to commit to full feudal and go with that. In that case, I kind of like the Keshik Abbasid combo more. I think Zugino are really good, but Keshiks are kind of like knights, right? And I think, in general, if you play these prolonged feudal battles, knights are always something that you want to have on your side.
Yeah, archers will be focusing down the spearmen here. Most of the Ghazi Raiders are now gone. Keshiks still mostly kept alive, and now that there is no spearmen out there, they will start pursuing the Chukunus. As you said, they are like semi-knights. Little easier to kill, but when you start massing them and when you can keep them alive throughout the entire feudal age, it starts to swing in your favor. It starts to just grind down the opposition like knights do.
Yeah, and I mean, guys, it's 10 minutes and there's not a single sacred site taken, so this is not a good opener, especially because if you think about it, the guys that are winning the fight, the blue team, is actually booming at the same time. So they're not the ones that are all-inning or 1 TC. Like, one guy is trading and one guy is on 2 TC, and they're still winning the fights.
And because of them being the aggressors, there is just no shot right now for Donati or CoRe to challenge that trade. They are just busy defending, and Baltune is getting away with now 8 traders completely untouched.
I mean, I don't think they can even begin to contest that. I mean, the only way to contest that is Ghazi Raiders. But then, if you do that, then you basically, are taking like a third of your army away to do that. And then your main army will suffer quite a bit. And we do see there's just so many archers, and they have extra health from the military wing, and they're just trading really well.
Yeah, the escalation potential is also great. Like, if either of these players goes into Castle Age, you will have the Keshiks with the Castle Age upgrades, or you will have composite bows for those Abbasid archers. As you said, this is the team that's the aggressor right now, but they're also the one that's booming away.
Yeah, and I think this is something that if the game stays in this state, as is, like they're trading, Baltune and Crackedy will just have more and more resources. Like, this game will not be going worse for them. They're just going to have more economy and more units in the long run.
And they're slowly cleaning up these forces. No spearmen to be found now in the middle. Slowly but surely those scholars have been picked off as well. Chukunus, very low numbers available now. Most of the Keshiks have been taken down, however, so there is at least that for CoRe and Donati. But you feel like this is just a bit of a territory control type of a game. Slugfest on both sides, casualties on both sides, but at the end of the day, CoRe and Donati still haven't managed to capture a single sacred site.
Yeah, and I mean, the best thing going for them is I guess, Song Dynasty, right? Because it has a little bit of extra production on the workers, but we already see 10 worker almost difference, right? 11 worker difference now, and that's 12 traders as well. Like, that is not small trade. That is a serious amount, and it's basically a full length trade as well. We do see walls coming out, so they're trying to protect that, and they're on the enemy side of the map. And the second problem that Donardi and CoRe will have is once the food starts running out, where is CoRe going to go?
Yeah, that's actually a good point, especially because his initial berries were in the front, and I think most of the backups are also on the front. Chukunu numbers slowly rising, but so are the Archer numbers, and again, the team that's losing more and more ground is CoRe and Donardi. That's a lot of Ghazi Raiders, though, swinging in, so if you are Baltune and Crackedy, you gotta be cautious here.
I like that con arrow helping out the Archers a little bit with the attack speed. Now, these Ghazi Raiders, they're not, your usual horsemen. They actually do okay damage against armored units. They will not counter Keshiks, but they will do decent amount of damage, and the more they have, obviously, they're going to trade better and better. And I'm actually a bit surprised that Donardi is not just switching fully to Ghazi Raiders, right? Because there's only Archers and these Keshiks, which technically can be beaten by Ghazi Raiders in serious amounts.
Yeah, especially if you have Chukunu support as well. As long as the cavalry just shields the Chukunu, they do a lot of damage against those Keshiks, and looks like CoRe and Donardi are now gaining some ground over here. Baltune and Crackedy kind of need to regroup here. They need a little bit more on the Keshik department, because Crackedy's got a lot of good archers here, but they are no longer being protected by the Keshiks.
Yeah, and we do see the ranged army for CoRe and Donardi is kind of getting, I mean, it's 44, 45 right now on their side. And, archers are good and having extra HP is good, but you cannot contest the Zuginu DPS versus archer DPS. So, yeah, like you said, they either need way more Keshiks to be able to tank, or they can also age up and play with better tech against them.
Look at that tower on the hilltop, by the way. I don't know if it ranges the whole sacred site, but that is going to be a difficult one to deal with for CoRe and Donardi.
And we do see backup walls coming. They just want to keep them away, not let them get in the base, which are like 18 traders right now. Which at that point, you could potentially even buy into Castle if you wanted to. And we do see double ram, so they are 100% going for it.
Yeah, no Castle Age on the horizon from either of the players on Crackedy's team. And as you said, that's a lot of Chukunus, a lot of DPS coming out of there. Archer numbers looking healthy. Keshik numbers are up to 15 as well, however. So this could be a scary moment for Donardi and Crackedy, or for Donardi and CoRe. If they get surprised by all those Keshiks, this could be devastating.
Yeah, that is a serious amount, and I mean they've been all in like for a while, right? Because they have to do something, otherwise they will be losing out on economy. Now fighting under TC is going to be, I feel like, pretty rough. We do see some spearmen, 15, and if they get picked off, that is going to be a lot of Keshiks they have to deal with. We do see the con ranged aura coming out for those archers, and I feel like they're just getting cleaned up.
Yeah, this is a lovely fight. As you mentioned, Con Arrow was popped, but also there was a Camel Archer. So the Camel Archer debuffing the Ghazi Raiders, also a heavy contributor, and that's why all these Keshiks are still alive. And with the Keshiks alive, the Chukunu are being forced back, Archers on pursuit, and this push is getting stalled out. Rams will be taken down by the Vills. This might be a game-deciding fight here, because from now on, you really don't feel like Donardi and CoRe has anything going for them.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, Keshiks are not as good as Knights, but they are armored, and you can see kind of when they're taking their range shots, they're just not really taking a lot of damage. They are still doing a lot of damage, even with the lower HP, together with the opposite archers, to just kind of sprinkle in the fire over literally every single unit. Does wonders, and 3 sacred sites are taken, but perhaps a bit too late.
Feels a little too late now. Army numbers heavily favoring Crackedy's team. He himself is up to 63 archers. And now that the pressure is gone, they could think about Castle Age, or they could just focus on doubling down and finishing this. Crackedy is Abbasid, so he can make rams without having to research attack, but it looks like he wants to go to Castle. He's aging up with the Culture Wing. He's going to get the veterancy on the archers. He will have the composite bows. And once that happens, it feels impossible for CoRe's team to take good fights against this army.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be pretty rough. At this point, they have so much economy, they can stop producing units for like 30, 40 seconds and just age up immediately. I wouldn't be surprised if Mongol ages up soon as well. But yeah, they're pushing pretty heavily, and I think CoRe is out of food, if I'm not mistaken, at this point.
Yeah, he's either out or he's gonna get close to being out. You see, berry villagers in large quantities here for CoRe. He's actually taking a lot of berries right close to the front line. Has to now pull all of those villagers away. And there is the CoRe ulti coming up as well for Baltune. Double castle age against 2 players, both stuck in feudal.
Yeah, it's kind of the beginning of the end. I mean, they just have everything, right? They have more eco, they have more map control, they have more army, and they're aging up. So there's not, I mean, not much has gone wrong for Donardi and CoRe, right? Like they didn't really lose or suffer too much from the tower rush. I just feel like maybe the unit comp / strategy choice wasn't the greatest. I think if CoRe went for the same unit comp and maybe Donardi went for mass Ghazi Raiders and maybe try to harass that trade a little bit or harass food sources, I feel like that would have been a much stronger strategy, and maybe add spears at some point just in case. But I think they kind of built a little bit of everything and didn't turn out too well.
Yeah, this is a good fight as well for Crackedy. Just a handful of spears and archers, but he does take down most of the Ghazi Raiders. Army numbers still favoring Crackedy and Baltune, but more importantly, they do have Castle Age, they have Rams coming in. Feels near impossible right now for CoRe's team.
I'm actually surprised he's not making mangonels, because they're both in castle like you said, and he just built a ram. I feel like if he just made a mangonel or two, I mean, either way, he can make siege towers at this point. Like it doesn't really matter.
I think CoRe doesn't have a gate to the south, by the way. I think those villagers shifted to hammers. Yeah, he doesn't have a gate. Oh man, that's gonna hurt.
More pain. The pain train. Luckily, they build fast because they're Chinese villagers. Oh my god, they're like, go through! Oh my god. Yeah, that is just painful.
Big counterattack coming up, but this is 70 archers we're talking about. They're being buffed by the CoRe ulti as well. Feels like a last-minute desperation move here from Donardi. Trying to come in with the Chukunu is scored, but numbers are looking even, and you have the CoRe ulti out there. You do have the Castle Age upgrades now in. This army is going to be traded off, but that means that CoRe and Donardi will have nothing left to fight with.
Yeah, and these are upgraded archers, so they're just tanking everything. The Ghazi Raiders, the Spearmen, and they are still winning out in the end.
And there is the GG. Crackedy and Baltune take a 2-0 lead. We had some trading going on, not as much as I have expected, but there was that key thing, of course, some crucial fights. And as you said, the fact that they could deny the sacred sites for a long time, there really wasn't no moment where Donardi and CoRe had any kind of economic advantage or resource income advantage, and it just escalated out of control.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare this game to previous game, how the Abbasid was played, like Abbasid was paired up with a more passive civ early on, like super early on in Rus, right? And they got pressure pretty fast, but also they were playing against French and English. But this game, Abbasid was paired with Mongol, who tower rushes in Dark Age, and we saw, I mean, literally zero pressure on Abbasid, right? He got the stone, he got the wood, he built a second TC. Mongol then aged up. There was no harassment from the other side, so they kind of got to do whatever they wanted to do. And I feel like picking up a win with Mongol and Abbasid is very, very good for them because they still have a lot of good civs left. So being up 2-0 is, probably a pretty good feeling for them.
It most certainly is, especially if you consider what home maps they have available. Very different from those standard built-in style maps like Lipany or, dare I say, even Rocky Canyon. So even if they start losing out, they still have some of those safe maps to go for. Now it looks like CoRe and Donardi decide to pick the opponent's home map here, and we go to Mountain Clearing, double HRE, but it's the Malians and the English supporting them on each side. Which of these combos do you prefer?
So I think English HRE have a clear way of playing. Like HRE will most likely try to do some kind of castle rush. English will do some pressure. But on the other side, I feel like you can do a lot more with Malians. like Malian can also rush castle, and then you can go for Rimba and try to fight. But Malian can also do stuff like pro scouts. They can even feed cows, which is not as good as it used to be, but it's a potential, right? So they can kind of go aggressive in feudal or both rush castle. While I feel like on the English side, English will pressure no matter what. So for that reason, I prefer English just because the map is so small and kind of walled off. But if Malians decide to be aggressive in feudal, maybe with some javelin throwers to counter English, then it can kind of turn into a battle then. And then HREs are probably going to be fighting around relics quite a bit.
Do you see CoRe and Donati going for the board here in Dark Age? They have the English to secure that ground with, and they could just use the HRE player there. Is that an option for them?
I mean, honestly, they could both do it. There's two boars, so I think they can both go to the middle. They have English villagers to, kind of support that. So that's also a possibility. It just kind of depends how they want to go about it. Maybe they'll think it's too risky, but it would be a pretty good start, I think.
Yeah, of course, there's the Malians, but Malians so far didn't find a lot of success in this tournament. Is that because Malians are slightly weaker in 2v2s, or is that because we had some nerfs coming to the Malians in Season 5?
Probably because players maybe don't know how to play them now that they're nerfed, to be honest. I was actually discussing this on my stream the other day. I think Malians got nerfed, and Malians will not be like free wins anymore. So I think a lot of players will struggle quite a bit with them. Because now they're more tuned. It's not like, oh, I played Malian's third time and I beat top 5 player with them. It's you actually have to play, I think, a lot better because of all the nerfs. And let's not forget, it's not that one thing was nerfed. It was the warrior scouts, the Farimba, the cows. So it's a lot more in tune, I would say, with other civs. Not necessarily weak, but it is a lot more difficult to play. And obviously, taking the Malian scouts' movement speed affected them and affected them 2v2 as well because the maps are bigger, but I still think they're a very good civ.
All right, we just got 30 seconds left to go. It's match point for Baltune and Crackedy, but you mentioned this. You prefer the civilizations from CoRe and Donati, and let's not forget, we had some of the most powerful civilizations used up early by Baltune and Crackedy, so as we move deeper and deeper into the set, it might be challenging for them to find optimal places for these civilizations, or just pairings that are better than the ones available for CoRe and Donati.
Yeah, and here we go. Well, we're about to find out. We'll hear the sheep bells in a second, hopefully.
Well, you will hear them.
See. Right, and we'll see if they plan to go for 4 or not. And I don't see any villagers, so I think this is going to be a boarless game for now.
Okay, interesting option. That's a beautiful mining camp, by the way, from Crackedy. It's right on the gold and the stone. It's not like he's going to use the stone initially, but that's a very feels-good mining camp.
Yeah, that's a value camp right there. I mean, that's 50 wood saved. That's a huge advantage. Already big lead for Crackedy and Baltune, and oh god, that gold mine for the Malians. I mean, that's unfortunate. To be fair, the woodlands are usually much further away from your base, but his woodland is kind of close, but it does block like 20-25% of his gold mine, so that's a little bit rough, but it is what it is.
No boars so far from either side, as you mentioned. We do have double HREs. This map, of course, is somewhat different from what you saw in Elite Classic. Double Sacred Sites, double boars in the middle compared to 1v1s, and a lot more relics to work with. It's almost guaranteed that the HRE player can secure 4 relics, because each player does start with 2 next to their TCs.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just, how many relics? It's 10 relics, right, on this map? So that's kind of crazy. I mean, even if each side has 5 safe, let's say, that is 5 relics with Cathedral potentially. So that is just crazy amount of gold.
And you love to combo that with the HRE bonus. Just place it in a keep, gets even more effective on a very tiny map like this. That range buff is so huge when you're so confined.
Yeah, and we see Baltune actually doing something pretty good. So he did not scout the whole map like Artie and CoRe are doing. He actually went straight to HRE and killed his deer before he pushed him to the TC. Meanwhile, on the other side, Crackedy managed to push in his deer all the way into the chapel. So again, might not seem like a big deal, but if you're rushing castle and kind of timing is everything, this will make a big difference.
Mansa Quarry, Aken Chapel, and Council Hall will be the landmarks, so no major surprise on either side, I would say. Mansa Quarry right next to the TC over there. What next then? So one of the things that we always have to talk about on this map is how much are you committing to Feudal Age with the HRE here? Do you think there is either team in which the HRE player has to commit to Feudal, or is this a race to Castle?
I think it depends on Malian specifically. I think Malian is the biggest influence here because English will make units. Like there's no way he's not gonna make a longbow, right? So Artie will be looking to push Crackedy most likely, and it's on Baltune basically to make units to defend Crackedy. Because if Crackedy has to make units as an HRE, then CoRe will just get to castle immediately because CoRe is under zero pressure. So it's kind of going to be between Malian and English, or at least it should be. Otherwise, CoRe will just get to castle super quickly and just start getting the relics.
Well, of course, Malians, as you mentioned, they did undergo a couple of changes, so they're not as broken as they used to be before. It will be interesting to see how Baltune approaches this. No production building from him just yet. He's going to open with the range.
Yeah, so this is what I mentioned earlier. If he commits to like maybe 2 ranges and just javelin throwers, then he will enable Crackedy to age up freely because a javelin thrower, a Malian will beat English that's spamming longbows. So then he will be the one that can kind of put pressure on the opponents or buy Crackedy enough time to age up. And from what I'm seeing so far, it looks like HREs are adding no production whatsoever. And we do see Artie with a very early blacksmith. Wow.
Okay, Artie, English blacksmith coming in here. He is going to start producing longbows, but yeah, as you said, it's an early blacksmith. He only has 2 longbows out there. Looks like it's going to be javelin thrower defense. The HRA player is just not committing to any army right now. Some walls also come up from Crackedy, so he wants no surprises coming in. And it's probably the right thing to do. In fact, he's going to wall on the left side as well. I'm just now noticing how close these players are on the north.
Yeah, I mean, he's just playing it safe. I'm not even sure if it's needed, to be honest, because that is a decent amount of wood, right? That's like 120 to 140 wood. And your ally is also making the javelin throwers. Like, if Malian was also not making anything, I would say, yeah, I like the walls. But if the Malian ally plans to make units and defend you, then you can kind of greed out a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah, the thing that's surprising is that he's up against the HRE player, so if you think about the fast castle for them as well, as you said, those walls might just be an investment that you could have saved up on, especially because the longbows are moving through the middle, and you just have the javelin throwers repelling them. So, in retrospective, Crackedy spent some villager time plus a lot of wood on making those walls, something that CoRe didn't do, and that's the reason why CoRe is actually beating him.
Yeah, and then this is what I mentioned. You kind of have to let the Malian defend you. You don't like if this was a different matchup. If CoRe was China or something, this is not the case. Like the walls are okay, but because you're playing HRA mirror basically with 2 extra civs just kind of fighting around, you do want to age up as fast as you can because getting the relics can mean the difference between winning and losing.
Oh, Scout goes down here under the TC. Ragnit's on the way for both HRE players. Well, one of the advantages that Crackedy is going to have in the long run is that he is now walled, so it's a little bit more difficult to surprise him. But it looks like we will have the longbows starting to poke around at the front of Crackedy's base. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult to sneak out those prelates and take away the relics from your teammate's base.
Oh, he's actually going wild with that prelate. That prelate might go down if he's not careful. Oh, oh, oh. He wanted to go for the far middle relic. Yeah, that prelate's dead. That's a pretty big loss, actually. That was a pretty greedy one.
Yeah, the board got aggroed, and this guy is doing some work over here, chasing down the Javelin Warriors. But looks like now Knights are coming out. CoRe is the first one to get some Knights on the field, and I don't see anything from Crackedy here. He's actually yoinking the Relic from the middle. He's also towering the Sacred Sites, but he's not producing any army right now.
Yeah, and I think Donardi switched to like a lot of gold. So I think Donardi will try to actually age up as well. I'm not sure, because he hasn't produced units in a while, yeah. So we do see he has enough resources soon to age up. And I wonder if he's going to go with White Tower, because CoRe will not have the Knights, so he can kind of take control of the middle and maybe kind of establish the middle so the White Tower can go up.
That could be a thing. There is a tower in the middle right now, but we have seen how players love to work towards that white tower, play into the English defense bonus, and just try to start the Sacred Site timer. Knights are moving out from CoRe. They will repel most of these Javelin throwers, although you gotta be cautious with the casualties. Javelins were thrown, but a Knight gets away, and it will be healed back up to full health.
Yeah, CoRe comes in with a Diablo 4 micro, keeps that Knight alive. He's going to heal it up to full, so I'm getting his value. Oh, let's see it again. That one goes down for sure. Yeah, not quite. But he did save one, so there's that.
Knights are slowly moving up, though. There's a tower out there already with a relic inside. Knight could actually pick off the villager that's building the second tower, but it does hop into the TC, or into the tower, actually. I think that, yeah, that's a Springald emplacement on the tower, though, so you gotta be cautious about engaging against this. But the Knights are just cleaning up most of these Javelin throwers, and the Longbows are here to assist.
Yeah, I mean, I like the super early tower into Springald upgrade, because this is not something you're going to kill with units. Like, you are going to need actual siege, whether it's a trebuchet or ram, to get down, and it's about to get upgraded again, so that thing is not going down, and they're clearly going to go and try win with Sacred Sites as fast as possible.
Yeah, it's actually Fortified tower now as well. Tower still being built. And there is the Prelate out there to capture the second Sacred Site. Longbows being focused down as well. And a Prelate should be able to grab this one. So Crackedy and Baltune will have the middle. The villager was picked off though, so the second tower was not finished.
And we do see a lot of villagers on stone, so he will be going for a very fast keep. And I feel like CoRe went for quite a few Knights, but didn't actually get a lot of value. And he aged up first as well, let's not forget that. And I don't think he has gotten the value that he wanted. Meanwhile, Crackedy is now making Men-at-Arms, which will basically do the same job in the middle as Knights would, which is just to tank and deal some damage to the opponent. And I'm assuming that Malian will probably go for Javelin throwers or Poison Archers once he hits Castle and just kind of try to support with range units.
Yeah, that's very much a possibility. Both Sacred Sites have been captured, so the Sacred Site countdown begins. CoRe managed to keep most of his Knights alive, so he still has a respectable force here. But as you said, Men-at-Arms are now coming in, Javelin throwers increasing in numbers as well. No maces on those Men-at-Arms just yet. No Spearman either for Crackedy. But all he wants to accomplish is finishing this keep, and from that point on, this is going to be challenging to push for CoRe and Donardi.
Yeah, and another question is, so obviously they're going to need siege to prevent this, so the question is which one of them will be going siege, and this actually might turn out really bad. All the Men-at-Arms will go down. The villagers are now getting focus fired. Some will go down, and then he decides to go back on the keep, and then he decides back in the towers, and that is, I think that's like 6, 7, 8 villagers going down, and I mean, how do you get this keep up now with the Knights just camping right there?
Yeah, he was a little indecisive. He probably could have finished the castle if he just went with it right from the beginning. Now here comes some more Men-at-Arms. One of those towers, the one that's being burnt down right now, does have a Springald. I think the other one has 2. But not enough space for the villagers to garrison inside. And you see CoRe is pulling the Prelates to try and decap the Sacred Site. In fact, he's probably going to try and capture it for himself. And looks like the Prowler got picked off by the Springle Tower, though, before he fully decapped it, so the countdown still goes on.
Yeah, he's actually target firing the prelates with the tower, so they're just going down super, super quickly. And yeah, I mean, this is just very, very bad for them right now.
Yeah, it looks like it's also bad for the frames that we have. A bit of a slow-mo action here in the middle. Frames, please. Come back, frames. It's not as bad as it looks, right?
Okay, next slide, please.
Oh yeah, a bit of a slideshow action going on. We'll get that fixed for you in a second, guys. There is still that Springle Tower. Would you be shocked if Crackedy just pulled like a dozen villagers, force building that castle up at this point?
I mean, I feel like even if he did that, you just lose so many workers. Then it turns into like, can he actually defend the keep then? Because he's just going to be behind economically quite a bit.
Yeah, slow slideshow over here in the middle. We got crossbows coming out from Artie though, so these men-at-arms, with the support of the knights, they will just disappear in an instant.
Yeah, and Artie has been... I mean, only 3 crossbows. I feel like he aged up a while back, and I assume he aged up with King's Palace, because we don't see White Tower anywhere near.
Well, right now we don't even see the next slide, so we're gonna have to wait for a second. But Artie and CoRe does have a big eco lead. It's 18 villagers already. No keep in the middle. Sacred sites will be decapped. What is the plan here for Crackedy and Baltune? Is there anything that they can do, or is this game just gone for them?
I mean, they've captured the middle, which, you know, on paper it might seem, I mean, kind of captured, right? Which might seem nice, but I feel like the amount of villagers that they've lost, and I mean, let's not forget, Baltune is still in feudal, by the way. And it seems like the slides are going through.
Yeah, looks like we're catching up on the slides real quickly. Vodka's going to get that fixed for us.
So, I feel like Baltune being still in feudal is pretty... Like, if Baltune was in castle, I would say maybe, you know, they can kind of play on from there. But the fact that both Artie and CoRe are in castle, Artie was with 2 TC, let's not forget. And Crackedy doesn't have one of the relics, right? It was right in front of the keep, dropped on the ground. So that's something that CoRe can also just grab quickly.
Okay, looks like we're back on track. So hopefully we can go back into the game and watch something more entertaining than a slideshow.
Pictures are easier to understand, so.
But video is more fun to watch.
Sometimes they tell a better story, you know? If you see 10 knights around the tower, and the keep is not being built, you know, do you really need to watch any further to know what's going on there? Just saying.
Alright, into the game we go again. Sorry, folks, for that. We still have that tower up, and I asked you this question. Can you kamikaze build this castle? I guess we're soon gonna get an answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, even if you do it, right, this is the issue. You do it, you build it, you lose a couple of more workers, you have to keep, great, but then how are you going to defend it afterwards? I'm assuming he has more, like, probably 15 workers less at this point than CoRe, right? I'm comparing Crackedy and CoRe because they're both HREs. And at that point, how are you now going to defend it? Because now comes the siege battles, and your economy is just so much worse.
Yeah, and you even lost out on the sacred site, so when you capture that, you will restart the 10-minute timer. And on the other side, Artie has been playing on 2 TCs with the King's Palace. And for CoRe, he's been sitting on 3 relics for a while. I wouldn't be shocked to see CoRe going up to Imperial soon and just getting some bombards out to get rid of that castle.
Yeah, I do see. I'm actually surprised that CoRe didn't yoink one of those relics in the middle. Because he did have prelates there, right? He just kind of decided to, you know, lose them instead. But I mean, yeah, guys, this is just looking rough. There's 5 knights just roaming through your base, searching for villagers. Villagers are walling from the other side, trying to run away. Are they? Yeah, they got nowhere to go. Actually, he's gonna build a lumber camp there probably. And yeah, that's just a sad look. And if you look at the economy, 72 versus 102.
That's a big
Not
difference.
a good look. Yeah.
Baltune just sent a bunch of food to Crackedy. Makes me wonder what the plan is. I wonder if he wants to go Imperial. Yeah, there it is. Pass of Schwabia for possible recovery, and more importantly for Bombard Towers. There was a trade card queued up for a second on someone. I saw it. You don't escape. That has to be Crackedy.
Yeah, I probably bought a little bit of food. I mean, I'm surprised that CoRe hasn't aged up to Imperial because I feel like they did what they wanted, right? They killed some villagers, they decapped the site for a second, so I feel like CoRe could have snuck in a quick Imperial, especially because he has farms as well going. But he's going to do some damage to Baltune, which, by the way, Baltune is still in Feudal. So Baltune sent 800 food to Crackedy. You know, they made the call, hey, don't age up to Castle. Let me age up to Imperial instead, which I like the choice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough.
Yeah, it feels like an all-in style play, but when you're down by 30 eco on a map like this, all-in isn't the craziest things to think about. And he's now going up to Castle Age with the Farimba Garrison. Imperial Age will be in first for Crackedy, and a countdown is going on. It's still 8.5 minutes left to go. But I'm actually starting to feel like there is a good shot here for Crackedy and Baltune. They will have a Schwabia to catch up to a certain extent on the eco. They could play Wolverines to snipe Siege, and they will have Baltune in Castle Age as well.
Yeah, I mean, that keep does have a relic inside, so it's a lot better. He has a sprinkle placement on it. He's gonna get bombarding placement soon, I would assume, like you said. The traps are coming, but I feel like Don Artie has kind of been inactive for like past 6 minutes. And he only has 2 trebs, a mangonel, and 11 crossbows. Which
You could start a joke with that. 2 traps, 11 crossbows, and a mangonel.
Yeah, walk into a bar, yeah. And there's already Imperial HRE with 5 relics and 2 keeps. So that kind of feels rough, because I feel like if Baltune makes like 2 rounds of whatever, let's say Musafati warriors or javelin throwers, I feel like Baltune can beat his army, which is weird because Baltune's been feudal the whole game, right? So we do see, like you said, Siege is coming out, Double Siege Workshop, and I mean, at this point, as HRE, you just need to make Siege and let Malian do kind of the grunt work in making infantry and units tank.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be javelin throwers with a couple of sofas being mixed in. Bombards are actually coming out for Crackedy, so not only is he making some Wolverines, he's getting some Bombards going. CoRe is an Imperial too, so from now on, as you said, it could be the Siege War between the HRE players.
Yeah, and CoRe right now with 1 Knight and 6 Prelates, so he's been making the Prelates quite a bit. And they're moving. Okay, I thought they might just get wiped out. So CoRe is making a Siege Workshop, and he's got a lot of farms, by the way. And Crackedy has, I'm pretty sure, no farms. And that's because Crackedy, like I said, this is their home map, so he probably knows, okay, I don't actually need a lot of food income. I just need to get to Imperial, get a bunch of gold, and get a bunch of wood and make Siege. And CoRe, meanwhile, I think he made like 15 farms, which is quite a bit, but he probably won't be focusing on too many units.
Also, don't forget, like Baltune, if he's using the Farimba Garrison, he's just using gold, so he could slink his teammate with food, and that's probably part of the reason why Crackedy isn't really committing to a lot of farms.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, and I feel like they were in such a good spot, like Don Artie and CoRe, but I'm not sure what happened. There's like a period of 8 minutes where they had a lead, they killed a lot of villagers, and somehow they ended up being second to Imperial, and are now, I feel like, in a much, much worse position. Yeah, even though they're ahead in 30 workers, it just doesn't feel like they're ahead economically.
Yeah, now the sofas are pushing the food eco of CoRe, all those hardly built farms, now they will be idled out, and this is buying precious minutes over here for Baltune and Crackedy. The countdown is reaching the 5-minute mark, and with that many sofas inside the eco of CoRe, this is going to delay him so heavily.
Yeah, and I think this, you know, all jokes aside, I think this comes down to just not enough experience or maybe practice on mountain clearing, because you do not need this many farms. Or if you are going for this many farms, then your ally needs to commit to a lot of siege, right? You shouldn't both be making units and siege. I feel like one player should commit, and usually the player that commits is HRE because they can get to cauldrons.
It feels like CoRe and Donati were playing a strategy that would be more suitable for just any of those general maps. Whereas for Baltune and Crackedy, their approach is a little bit more all-in style, but that's what you need for a map like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird map, right? And you gotta play a bit... Where did that relic come from? Did he just steal his relic?
Good question. CoRe had 3, but I would be shocked if he lost it. I think it might have been...
There's a destroyed tower. I think he just yoinked it from the tower just above. Yeah, there's a tower right next...
You're probably right.
Yeah, there's a tower. So if CoRe took 2 from his own base and 2 from Don Artie's base, then he just took his relic. So again, things are just kind of becoming, I feel like, worse and worse. And we do see a big raid from Baltune and Don Artie's base. I see a lot of blue. Yeah, just kind of becoming, like I said, kind of turning into a nightmare at this point.
Yeah. Timer on the sacred side is 3 minutes 45 seconds, but if you look at the army numbers now, better for Baltune and Crackedy. If you look at the eco numbers, pretty much even now. Knights are trying to charge in, but this is just gonna be so difficult. There are like multiple towers with bombardment placements on them, keeps as well, and every single one of them are being buffed by the relics.
Yeah, so if there's 10 relics, guys, on this map, we're gonna do some elementary school math, or kindergarten even. There's 10 relics on the map, and CoRe's got 3. How many does Crackedy have? And that's a lot of relics for a Cathedral HRE.
CoRe knows that. He's just going to tap out of this one. Baltune and Crackedy looking strong. Dispatch CoRe and his teammate Don Artie in a 3-0 fashion. Interesting series to watch. You felt like there was the upper hand always being there for Baltune and Crackedy, but especially this game, it felt so good for Don Artie and CoRe for a while. They stopped to keep in the middle. It felt like they had momentum, but as you said, then they just kind of stopped, and there was a path to recovery from Baltune and Crackedy.
Yeah, I think that on that specific map, like as English, if you age up, I can't remember exact time where he aged up, but the moment you age up, you have to build a trebuchet, right, and start sieging. But I feel like the sieging started when Crackedy was already in Imperial, and then I feel like it's already too late at that point. Like on this map, in order to break the middle, you have to start doing it very early with siege to force them to repair and stuff like that, which kind of never happened. And I mean, at the end, if Crackedy has 7 relics with Cathedral, that is quite crazy.